I really think it's important that we get enough advance notice for overnight trips.
Because some of these things are debatable. I mean, it's not,
Right.
it's not a automatic that, yeah, go ahead. So we need to know, and in fairness to them, they need to know whether or not we're gonna approve it.
The point is, this meeting has been set well more than a month ago.
Oh.
This convention is set probably a year in advance.
And it would appear to me, is the advisor the only person going,
I
the
had
only
a
adult going?
conversation with the principal late this afternoon, and I requested that there be another chaperone attending.
I think there should be
How
at
many
least
students are there?
13
13.
students.
13,
So I think there should be
that-
two
there have
chaperones,
to be.
one for every
Yes.
10.
Ours is one for every 10.
And not only that, but I think it needs to be emphasized with the kids, and I know they won't be a problem, but they need to be on their best behavior down
That's
there.
right.
Yes, we
We've had-
certainly,
You know,
Yes.
all right?
a couple of years ago, we had issues on,
That's been
and that's no
emphasized.
reflection on these
No, not at all.
students,
But
but
just an emphasis on.
But it
on
might affect
good behavior.
future approval.
Absolutely.
It could. It could.
I actually think it affects my perspective of this time approving. I'm not approving this. Not for the timing, whether we tell them or not that they have 30 days notice. This is unacceptable to send this late. And I just don't see the purpose in sending kids to an award ceremony. I just don't. I know what happened in our previous trips. I'm sure these are different kids, but I just don't think we should be setting a precedent of sending them. This is not,
I think it's more than an award ceremony, isn't it?
It is. It's about student government. They receive not professional development. They attend courses and workshops around
I
government.
know what student council is,
Right.
and to me, I'm really happy for the service that the kids are able to participate in, but I just don't see this as being something that enriches them. And I also see it as a trip that benefits 13 students who worked on it. I'm happy that, we've had, kids who are active in student government. I just don't see this as being as important. And I'm really not pleased with their past behavior. This does not seem to be a good use of time.
Well, and just for clarification, I think we did have one incident a couple of years ago, but they've been
Last
taking
year.
this trip for a while.
Last year or 2
Was it
years
last
ago?
year, 2 years ago?
It wasn't last year.
2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2
Wasn't
years ago.
last
2 years
year?
ago,
No,
yeah.
it was not last
But
year.
again,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
positive,
Yeah.
because I was here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we approve this trip.
Okay, we have a motion by Cliff. Do we have a second?
I'll second it
We have a second.
reluctantly.
We have a second by Mel. All right, any further discussion? We heard from Karen. Anybody else?
I promise this is the last one I will ever, I promise. I
That's-
held to my promise on Disney.
Yeah.
I stopped approving that. I will not approve another request that comes in at this short notice.
Okay. We have a motion by Cliff. We have a second by Mel. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have a 4 in favor, 1 against to approve the trip. Next on the agenda, and again, this is under new business. We have our FY13 budget presentation, and I believe Mr. Nelson is going to do the presentation.
Boy.
Start and then say something at the end.
How are you going to use this?
Okay, I'd like to begin by thanking the committee. I make this presentation on behalf of Superintendent Willis and the Administrative Council, all of whom have worked very hard to go through, a several-month process where we look at everything in the budget and try to have a manifestation and a good outcome for what our school committee goals are. I think it's useful at the beginning of any presentation to get a better understanding for where the money comes from, because if you don't understand where the money comes from, it can be confusing as to where we're going. And I think this year is particularly instructive in this area because we all know that our local economy is suffering from what I would call a downturn. And when you have that kind of issue, then it's going to impact the kind of funds that we have available for our budget. As you can see by this chart, literally 71% of the town revenues are sourced by property taxes. So those property taxes that North Reading residents pay. In declining numbers, the next second highest source of revenue for our budgets is state aid. So when you add those two numbers together, you can see that 86% of the funds that are made available to us to try to build a budget are in areas where you're not seeing a lot of economic growth. We know from town officials that there's not a lot of building going on in North Reading. That impacts property taxes. We know that there are not a lot of building permits being taken out. That affects property taxes as well. On the state aid side, we know there's a lot of unemployment in Massachusetts, and of course that affects the income tax revenues that the state receives. And even the other two smaller remaining areas are not growing as well. So you can start to see that we have a challenge as we start to build this budget.
Jerry, can I ask a question on that? Carl, that 15% number is below what the state is supposed to provide to us in terms of the foundation budget. Is that because we only get 67% of the Chapter 70 funds that come to us?
What I did with this, thank you for that question, what I did in this chart is combined all of the monies coming into North Reading. So this isn't just the school budget. This would combine all sources. That would mean highway funds, all of the dollars.
Oh, this is for the, this is the whole,
The town and school budget combined. Because we've taken that approach here in North Reading is that we don't earmark Chapter 70 directly to the schools.
right.
Rather, what we do is we take all of the available revenue sources and partition them in different ways.
Right,
So I
okay.
thought that would be more appropriate here.
Okay.
So, as you can see, we start to talk about what some might call a structural problem in school funding. Because, to begin with, the largest source of revenue you have are property taxes. And they are capped at 2.5%. That's been, I think, since 1981 that has been law in Massachusetts. The other sources of revenues are flat. So you're starting to see where the problem is. On the other side of the coin, on the expenditure side, healthcare costs for North Reading employees are increasing at approximately 10% a year. At the same time, there are certain special education mandates that we have to include in our school budget that are also increasing at greater than 10% a year. So something is wrong when you have 10% growth on one side and revenues are not growing at the same pace. So I call that a structural problem. So you start to see then that there are 4 major fiscal challenges as we reach FY13. There are some minor ones too, but I think when you boil them all down, you see 4 what I would call fiscal challenges. And to begin with, as many people know, the federal government 3 years ago made available to school departments across the nation ARRA funds. ARRA is an acronym for the Reinvestment Act, or the so-called bailout money that was made available by the Obama administration. And there were 2 successive years of funds available for school departments. In North Reading, we thought ahead, and we were literally able to hold over for this present year the sum of $339,000 to help us in this present year. So we were able to stretch those ARRA funds into 3 years. But there are no new appropriations on the horizon, so the amount of ARRA funds that will be made available to us in FY13 are 0. And when you don't have local revenue growth, you start to see why that's a major problem. Secondly, as I've noted before, the level funding, it looks as though state aid and local revenue will be approximately level this year. Thirdly, we have a major unknown in the FY13 budget year, and that is the teacher contract. As all understand, the largest line item in the FY13 school budget for any district, not just North Reading, are teacher salaries. So we are engaged now under the leadership of Mr. Venezia in a collective bargaining in which we have to project probably what the costs will be for that contract. Lastly and fourthly, we're also beginning to deal on an increasing level with the impact of the reduced funding that we have been providing our schools. I'm not talking salaries here, I'm talking the expense budgets. The expense budgets that are used for consumables, for textbooks, for technology, for photocopying. We are literally looking at an 18% reduction over a 5-year period, and that has an impact on the schools. So I would postulate that these are the four major challenges that we see as we move forward. So, some might ask, well, what are you going to do about it? So, I think it's important to recognize that there are aggressive efforts made at trying to contain those costs that we can. You know, we don't, as a school administration, have a lot of ability to control some costs, but there are some that we do. And the first example that we've noted here is school expense budgets. As just noted, we are literally looking at reducing them over a 5-year period and level funding them this year. So we are just trying to find other ways to do this. Secondly, as you'll see some slides that follow this slide, we are aggressive in our attempts to reduce costs in the utility area. Whether it be natural gas, whether it be electricity, those are some costs that we can control to some extent. And we continue to work hard at doing that. Lastly, in special education, we're continuing to commit ourselves to keeping students in our schools. A lot of customized programming is underway, and Director of People Personnel Services, Bullard, works hard with Superintendent to try to come up with customized programs to keep kids in district. Here's a couple examples. I noted the school expense budgets a moment ago.
That's amazing.
I think that's a pretty telling graphic. You can see in FY09 the combined school expenses of our 5 schools. Again, this is non-salary. These are the budgets given to the 5 schools. In FY09, you can see the number, a little over $680,000. This present year, FY13, in this preliminary budget that we are making available to you, we're looking at a number below $560,000. So that's example 1 of cost containment.
Carl,
Yes?
could you clarify, just for the purposes of our being on television, that what typical items are on the school expense budget?
Yes, thank you. This is a catch-all for anything that's not a salary. So if you're a middle school principal, the budget that's made available to you in your school expense budget would be textbooks, workbooks, photocopy paper, all of everything under the technology rubric, from laptops to ink cartridges to iPads, potentially. There are other sources available for some of our technology. Telephone. All of the consumables, that exist in any school. I think where it impacts the schools the most is in the area of textbooks and what I would call educational materials.
Thank you.
Continuing on, I noted before that we make efforts to try to contain costs in our utility area. You can see for the 4 successive years shown on this slide that we have level funded our costs of natural gas. It turns out that this present year, FY12, we're experiencing a light year in terms of heat. But I can tell you over the 4 years, we've had some cold years, and we've had surging prices some of these years. So to keep level funding here has been a major challenge. But we've done it. Same thing with electricity. Electricity costs have gone up these past 4 years. However, we have kept our budgets right to the $290,000 level.
I think the electricity one is amazing because of what we've all experienced in electric prices. The natural gas has been fluctuating, and this year the prices are down.
Yes.
But electricity has done nothing but go up over the last 4 years, and the fact that we've never had to dip into the town at certain times has created a reserve fund
Yes.
for emergencies, and we've never had to dip into that fund for either natural gas, or electricity, or gas for our vehicles, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. I think what we've done is found funds available in other accounts to do that.
Not my vehicle, but employees. I pay for my own gas in my vehicle. I want to make that clear. Yes.
And then, as I noted before, special education is very active, working with parents, working with the parent advocacy group, and try to reduce outplacements. And the reason we feel that way is because we know the best place for children is to learn with their peers here in North Reading. So our practices of inclusion are not only manifesting positive outcomes for kids, but at the same time are saving North Reading money. So